Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Mari, and I'm sitting here with my husband Jim, and we are ready to have our Sunday couch conversation. Of course, what do we always talk about? Artificial intelligence. We did not have a podcast last week because we were really busy with a TCEA conference in Austin, Texas. That is a technical conference for teachers, and it was rather interesting. I enjoyed myself a lot. I got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in quite some time, and got to make some new friends, make some new connections. So it was a lot of fun.
Got to work if we're going to go next year, which we usually go anyway. We go because we're looking for vendors for the school, and so we go into the exhibit hall a lot, and we spend a lot of time in there. We don't usually present. This year we did at the TCA conferences in Austin because we're so busy trying to find stuff for the school. But
Well, we were actually asked to present.
yes,
We are partners with a company called Fried Tech. They like source us out for some AI training, AI professional development, and they had a ballroom that they had, and they asked us if we would present in their ballroom for concerning teaching and leading in a world that's changed by artificial intelligence. So we did that, and then you were asked to present by a dear friend Bill from Harper ISD.
I was a co-presenter, and both of them, the first one and Bill's, were at the very end of the day too. So
Yes,
we spent a long time, all day long, in the exhibit hall and going to different sessions, and then we presented at the end of the day.
it was fun. You were asked by uh,
GTS.
GTS, who is one of our vendors that we use a lot. They asked you to be on a panel discussion.
I did.
So you did that for a couple of times while we were there, along
I
with
really went
Intel
right.
and
Intel
Fried
and
Tech.
Amy, the CEO of Frytech. I really liked that one. They had great
Oh,
snacks and
hush.
food. The
That's all you
food was
care
the
about.
food was a problem for me. I couldn't find good food to eat around that conference center or
We're not
convention
going to
center.
talk. Let's not talk about the
We
food.
should
Let's
talk about the
talk
food.
about artificial intelligence. Now, one thing that really surprised me is when we were looking at the session, because I go through and you put the app on your phone and then you try to pick all the sessions that you want to go to about professional development, or, they had all sorts of different sessions. A lot about safety, a lot about
I
cybersecurity,
went to some of those.
a lot about just the new law about the panic buttons in
I went to that as
classrooms.
well.
Yes. And so you're going through this. And while I was looking at it, I noticed a lot of sessions
So I counted them,
about AI.
and I counted them.
And you counted over 74. And this was just a cursory glance.
I
This
might have
wasn't,
missed a few. It was pretty close. I'm guessing about 10% of the total. And there's a lot of present. I mean, there's like 800
right.
presentations. I'm guessing somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% were about AI, which that surprised me. I didn't think there would be that many about AI. As I said, I attended a bunch of them, and so did you, of different kinds of sessions. And but I didn't get to go to a lot of AI ones. I think you went to a few. I didn't
I
get to
went
go
to a
as many as I
few.
wanted.
A lot of what I was interested in, because one of the things I like to do for Lano ISD is I like to tell teachers about new tools that are out there, like
Mm-hmm.
new little add-ons. Like Cami is one that we use a lot. So I was able to go to the Cami booth and talk to them about how they're integrating AI into Cami. I went to a session about AI integration into the Microsoft products,
Yes,
and the AI
that's the
integration
Copilot, the
Copilot.
Copilot
So I went
stuff.
to one of those sessions, which was great. I also went to a session about the AI for images, Canva, Adobe Express, some of the big generators for like PowerPoint presentation type flow for classroom
Mm-hmm.
lesson delivery is integrating a lot of artificial intelligence into that. But what I thought was really weird is that we went to all of these things and we learned a lot, but we actually ran into a lady that we'll come back to toward the end of this podcast that really surprised us. It was a
Yeah.
conversation that we ended up having on a train ride, an hour
Before
train
we get to
ride.
that, we're not done with the sessions yet because I
Okay.
want to. I try to keep everything positive when I talk about these. I do. I really want to be positive on these podcasts. I don't like negativity. But if you're going to sign up to give a presentation at a conference about a topic like AI, you're going to have to do a little bit more research. I mean, we spend a lot of time, as you know, I am obsessed with AI. I have a background in technology. I spent a long time learning about AI, long even before the large language model stuff.
Okay, I have to jump in.
And
I have to jump in because when you say we spend a lot of time, I'd like to clarify what that means real quick.
okay,
Our kids are no longer at home.
yes,
We are empty nesters.
we are.
And we are in a situation here to where we go to work and we come home, we are able to leave at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4:15,
Okay.
4:20,
Yep.
because you get there at like 7:20, 7:30
Yes.
in the mornings.
Yes.
And we come home, we have dinner at 5:30, 5:45 at the latest. It's usually just something real fast.
You're making our life sound boring.
But that's what we do in the evenings. We watch one show while we're eating dinner, and then it's AI the rest of the
Well, at
time.
least it is for me. You don't always do. Sometimes you do other stuff. You're a little more well
I have
rounded
I
than
have a
I am.
square on a wall that's painted, and that's as far as I've gotten.
I know.
What were we doing this morning, Jim? What were we
Anyway,
doing this morning?
it doesn't matter. What does that have to do with my
It
conversation?
has to do with the fact that it takes a lot of time
It does.
to learn about AI, to learn about the facts about AI. And some of the misconceptions that I heard, I'd like us to clarify just a few of the things. I know
Okay.
you heard some of it,
I
but I'd
don't.
like to
I
clarify
know,
just
but
a few
I
things.
don't want to get too negative.
No negativity.
Well, a little bit.
Okay, just a little.
Well, I mean, the little pieces don't matter as much. Like how much information was used to train AI, or what large language model means. I heard some misconceptions about that, but some of it was just. I was in one session, and the person giving it, they had obviously done a bunch of Google searches, but they really didn't understand the topic very well. And if you're going to take the time, and it was an hour and a half session that I sat through it for 30 minutes.
Got up and left.
I got up and left, and I don't do that because I consider that to be very rude. But my point is, I understand people getting excited about AI, but it's not that simple. Now, if you want to give a presentation about a particular AI tool,
And that's not what I
and
went to that.
I went to some that sounded more technical, and they just weren't. The people where they were giving it were not qualified. Anyway, let's move on. I don't want to spend my whole time bashing it. I do think that you need to be careful when you're getting AI education, and we can brag on ourselves, but we spend a lot of time on it. And I think you need to make sure that whoever's training you're going to actually knows something about AI.
Yes.
Otherwise, you could either get misinformation, or you could spend an hour listening to something you could have figured out in 5 minutes with Google.
Yes.
So anyway, moving on. We were on the panels. I enjoyed the panel a lot. The lady that was with, besides Amy, her name is Snow White. I love that name.
We've known her for a
We've
long
known
time.
her for a while. She was at Dell whenever we first met her. She's actually related to a lady that worked for me
By marriage, she
by
says.
marriage. I can't blame her for that one. Anyway, she told us some really exciting stuff Intel's doing. The 2024 is looking like it's going to be a big hardware year. I mean, as you know, we've spent time, or Jared and I spent time getting AIs running locally, and when you start talking about all the different uses for AI, having the hardware catch up, hardware is expensive right now,
Very
and it
expensive.
uses a tremendous amount of power. And so I think there's going to be a lot of hardware releases. I still haven't got my Rabbit, by the way. If anybody wants to look that up, my Rabbit's not here yet.
I'm sorry.
Me too. Anyway, so we did, as you said, a couple of different sessions. One was called Teach and Lead and the World Changed by AI.
One of the things that I regret doing is that in that presentation, I decided, because we had given these presentations before, we decided not to hit as much about
The basics.
what AI actually is and what the basics are in AI, because we just assumed that if you're coming to this presentation, you already probably know a little bit about AI. And so I like what we did. We went ahead, and instead of just saying, hey, AI can write emails for you, AI can help you with papers, AI can help you with lesson plans, AI can help you with, the list of 100 things that AI can help you with in the classroom to save you time. We went ahead and we tied in artificial intelligence to national headlines that
Issues in education.
issues in education, the teachers that are in the trenches every single day. the things that they are dealing with in their classroom,
Large class
large
sizes,
classes, language barrier, classroom management, chronic
disengaged
absenteeism,
students.
disengagement.
Yes.
These are the things that student mental health, which is a huge one for me coming as a counselor, these are the things that we tried to tie it back
And
into.
I think we did a good job of that.
I think so too.
But
But
it led to the lady on the
it
train.
led to the lady on the
We
train.
took
And
the train. Hold on, we got to back the story up. You're getting ahead of yourself.
I just want to jump into that though, because that's what really concerned me the most about this conference is that a lot of people assume that if you're going to an AI training, that you already have a basic understanding of what it actually is.
Let's back up a second. We took the train back and forth because parking in downtown Austin is horrible
Yes.
and it's expensive. So we parked in Leander and we drove in because it's close to our daughter's house, and we came in on the train, which is nice. And
Our
it's
daughter fed us dinner every
a
evening.
great dinner. That's where the good food was, is at my daughter's house. But anyway, so we've been riding the train back and forth. Well, the last day we were coming back, we were running.
Conference was over. We
Conference over. We were
literally
running a little bit.
ran.
We
We
were
had 2 minutes to catch the
well, one
train.
of us ran, the other just walked fast.
I waved at the guy and he gave me a thumbs up, telling me he'd
Anyway,
hold the train.
I'm sitting next to a very nice lady. She's a teacher at Austin
Austin
ISD,
AISD.
and she's got like a group of teachers she's with. But her biggest complaint was, which is what you were just talking about, is that she sat in several sessions and the people, they kind of started out with the basics, but they jumped straight in. And it reminded me of the complaints I used to have when I was at a college. Professor would say they'd spray all these equations or stuff all over the board, and then they'd turn around and go, "Any questions?" And you'd be going, "I don't even know what you just said."
My favorite one was, you should have learned this
In the
in
last
the
semester,
last class.
especially if you had them for the
And it
last
was the
class.
same teacher. And we're like,
Yes.
no, you
So
didn't teach
anyway,
that.
so you and I spent, because I was sitting next to her, you were right across the aisle from me. So we spent the next
45
10,
minutes.
15, 20 minutes just going through the basics, what they were and all that other stuff. And we went a little past. Basically, she got a free session on the train about AI.
Well, she was very interested because her whole point was that everyone's talking about AI at these conferences, but they're not talking about AI at her school. And therefore, she had no idea what it even was.
And she doesn't read the news and keep up with AI, not to that level. She's
Excuse my
busy.
French, she's up to her ass in alligators. That's what I keep saying.
Can't say those words.
Sure, I can. It's my
Anyway,
podcast. But teachers are in the trenches. They have 120 students. They have 25 students at a time, or 30 students at a time, or 35 students at a
you have to do a
time.
deep breathing exercise.
I'm very passionate about this.
I noticed.
Teachers are exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell by talking to her, she felt that way. And I felt bad because you and I had just adjusted, partly because of I've delivered this AI stuff so many times that I wanted to do something a little more interesting for me as well.
Blew my mind.
We did keep the basics in there. We just didn't spend much time on them.
Stressed me out.
I did stress you out because I made a whole change for how we do our presentation
3 days before.
Yeah, I think we still needed to do that. We needed to tie it to the things that teachers are, like you said, they're exhausted, they're hitting all these problems, but some of them don't really understand how these things can help solve those problems. So we tried to tie them together. I don't regret that part of it, but we do need to be more careful about leaving out the basics. Which
I think the biggest problem that we have when we go to these conferences is that they want you to give a very good session
in 50 minutes.
In 50 minutes.
And our intro sessions used to be almost 3 hours long.
You cannot present all of the information in 50 minutes.
Not if you want to cover the tools. You can do the basics in 50 minutes. I mean, you could do the intro like we used to do and all that stuff. But if you want to get into any depth in the tools, or in our case, we don't really like to focus on these extra little add-on tools that people have. We like to focus on the big guys, the big boys as we call them, which is Google and OpenAI and Microsoft and those. But we still think you need to spend 50 minutes on the basics. What is it? How do we get here? What is it like? Where's it going? The stuff that we normally do for the first 50 minutes. And then you spend some time on the other stuff. The problem is that people want to do both. You can't do it in 50 minutes.
The other thing that really surprised me is that a lot of the titles for the sessions that we were seeing had AI in the title. And so I would pop in to see what the session is. And then I would quickly realize that it was about a specific tool, or it was about just a very specific thing that really didn't have a lot to do with AI. It had to do with like, oh, well, here's this great little tool. And
It's
oh,
a
by the
lesson generator.
way, a lesson tool, and oh, by the way, it's connecting with AI in the future, or here's a little AI component. And I'm like, okay, this had nothing to do with actual what artificial intelligence is going to be doing for
Well, and you
education.
and I have discussed this a lot. The tools that generate great lessons, I think that's great, but I don't think that's the proper use for AI. AI generating a lesson is fine. But what you're doing is you're taking a tool that has a tremendous capability and you're teaching it to do something. There's already tools that do that. There are already great lesson tools out there.
Absolutely.
And teachers know how to use
And
those.
a lot of teachers, and this is something that we talked about, if you've been in the same class, the same subject for year after year
You
after
don't need another
year,
lesson
you
generator.
don't need another lesson generator. You know how to teach that
You
teak.
need a differentiator, a translator, a digital assistant, a
A brainstorm on how to take a lesson I taught 2 years ago to increase the student engagement with that specific lesson.
yeah, or some subsection of that lesson. And
Right.
some of these tools can do that, but I'm concerned about those tools. You get so focused on those. Like we did years ago, we had a tool that we brought in instead of using Google Classroom. We had a tool. It looked a lot like Facebook on the
Yes.
on the front end, so I thought it was a great tool. I brought it in.
My
We
big
spent
campus.
2 years training teachers on that product. We had teachers using it. We finally got them engaged with it, and then it just went away. It literally disappeared overnight.
I was in
And
the classroom when that happened. It was rather depressing.
jarring,
Yes, I went in one morning, I opened it up,
and it was
and it was
gone.
gone.
I know, and oh, they were really, really sorry because I did talk to the company about that, and they were willing to help us move our lessons over to something else. How do you move a lesson that's customized for that tool over to a new tool? Which is our point, which is why we think that it's so important that you learn how to use these general AI tools very well. And if later on, I'm gonna our next session that I did, which you actually jumped in on as well, was supercharge the IT department. I think this is a huge opportunity for IT departments in general, but for education to go back to the old days when we had the ability to customize things better for teachers. We've got so many generic tools now that are jack of all trades, master of none, or they're so focused on a specific thing they can't do anything else very well. IT departments used to customize. I mean, that's what they did. And everybody said that's bad because if the person that does the customization leaves, now you're in trouble. With AI, it's different though, because you can use the AI tool to help you document the tool you just created. And so I really want to do that more myself, where a teacher has a very specific problem that he or she's trying to solve. You can customize an AI tool to solve that. In the case of OpenAI, you could make a GPT, for example.
I was impressed with the last session. Okay, so Wednesday, last session
Of
of
the,
the last day of the
we
conference.
thought we were going to have 5 people in the
I
whole thing.
I figured there would be like crickets, that you'd go in, there would be
You, me, and
nobody.
Bill,
Yes, that would be it. And we actually had a pretty good
probably
representation
30 people.
of technology directors.
They were
And it
mostly
wasn't just
directors.
K-12, there was actually one that was a college level, and
Yes,
she has a totally different perspective. But
they're all IT though.
what surprised me is that at the end of the session, first of all, they didn't get up and leave as soon as it was over. They
That was a good
actually
sign.
they actually stayed around. They talked and asked questions. Cheating. Uh, They were asking some of the same questions that the teachers are asking, which tells me that the teachers are asking them those
Yes.
questions. And the number one thing, number one, number two, cheating. How are we going to figure it out?
Mm-hmm.
And safety, like security, information security,
FERPA COPPA, mostly
FERPA.
COPPA. They really focused on COPPA because COPPA is the one that specifically addresses, if you're under the age of 13 or over the age of 13, it's different. But mainly it focuses on making sure that people aren't using student information for
Or training information.
it was really designed for people selling access to information from students
Mm-hmm.
so they could send them targeted ads. But now with AI, it's about, are they using it for training So yes, I thought the CABA questions were good though. I really enjoyed the fact that they were asking those questions. The one question, the discussion you and I talked about it this morning that I really enjoyed the most, and it was brought up to me in a discussion with an art teacher, plus you heard we also had it in another session, was about is AI going to ruin the process of learning?
Creativity.
Creativity. And the argument this one paper read and that I enjoyed reading had to do with learning isn't a goal, learning is a process, just like we talk about cheating. Therefore, if you take the process and compress it and make it to where you can jump to the goal without going through the steps, are you taking away from learning? And the one that really was interested in this the most was an art teacher.
Mm-hmm.
She loved the idea of the AI tools and she was integrating them, but she was afraid by using them, they were just going to type in a prompt and that prompt was going to generate art and that they weren't going to learn
The
the
creative
intricacies.
process.
She mentioned like drawing a beard and how to
Right.
draw a beard on a character. And so it was a great conversation and I didn't have all the answers for her. You and I have talked about it again this morning because we watched a thing from Stanford University, an AI thing, and they mentioned that there was a lady that was actually in their education department there that was talking about the learning process and how the process itself was going to change.
Yes. Yes. For me, what we were actually talking about with that learning process is they talk about writing in AI, writing in AI. And
But that was a good
so
statement.
it,
Yeah.
it you know, and whenever she said that writing, while important, is not necessarily the only way that you can A, learn, or B, show that you have learned.
It's not the outcome of every learning opportunity isn't a written paper. Her
Correct.
point, yeah, her point was is that the outcome that you the different things that you want the student to learn isn't just demonstrated by writing.
Correct. And one of the gentlemen was saying that he thinks that the writing process, while important, is going to be compressed. And
Hmm.
that and as somebody who was I'm ELAR certified, I taught English language arts,
Hmm.
and not everyone is a writer. Eh,
I can raise my hand on that
eh,
one. I am not a great writer.
Writing is important because it is a way to take what you have learned and put it down on paper. And
It's a communication tool.
it is a communication tool, and that's all it is a way to communicate what you know.
It is a good opportunity for you to learn to clarify your thoughts and articulate what you know, but it's not the only mechanism to do that. And you and I talked about that this morning. One of the reasons that I have never really liked to write was because when I first started writing, my writing was always and still is
Technical.
very technical. And I don't consider writing, it's not the only way, it's not the only creative process out there. But when the critiques I got back from the teachers were very harsh,
Yes.
your writing is dry. I had one teacher in the seventh grade that I loved who told me I had good flow with my writing.
That's because you
And
outline, you go A to B, B to C, C to D. I mean,
she
that's
really
you the
liked
way
the
you think.
flow. And that's probably the only compliment I ever got on my writing was from her. So I hated it because it was always a negative feedback. I was treated like a non creative person because I could not write the way the teacher wanted me to write.
But if you sit you in front
Teachers,
of a computer and you say, "Here's some Python, I want you to make me a code to make something happen," you're very, very creative.
I like
So,
to think so.
my point with this conversation is that artificial intelligence is not cheating with AI is not the problem. Students getting assignments that allow them to utilize AI as a tool so that they can reach that creativity and they can reach that outside the box thinking, and they can generate
Analytical thinking.
better things.
Yes.
It is
Up their
where
game.
we need to go with that. We need to up their game. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that struggle is what people like to talk about. You have to struggle. We had a lady tell us this at the conference. AI is going to take the struggle out of learning, and
That's
she thinks that the struggle
That's what I was just talking about. I
is
agree with
what
her.
makes you learn.
And to some degree, I do agree with her. Struggle is important.
Struggle is
So
important.
give them harder problems.
Give them harder problems, but struggle is also what makes kids shut down.
If it's too much, if you don't get incremental, especially kids nowadays that are used to getting lots of feedback, it's even worse for them because yes, we need to teach perseverance, but they get so much easy access to information. If they have struggled too much, they just quit. because they can. They're like, I'll just move on to something else or something else to go on to. And you're not going to change that. You can't rewrite the whole world and make the world suddenly not give them all that information. I'm going to put you in a classroom, I'm going to close the doors, I'm going to shut you off from information, and I'll make you learn a new way. That's not going to work. AI can give you that iterative feedback and more positive feedback in many cases. If you take my writing, if I take what I write, which I do quite often now, and I put it in there and I say, I'd like this to be more upbeat. Where can I improve it? I don't tell it to rewrite it for me because I don't tend to like the way it does anyway.
No, it uses the words and
Are
stuff
too
that it uses
generic
are
for
too
me.
generic. Yes.
And maybe if I prompted it better, which I can do, if I do better prompting, maybe I get better. But I like I like writing process. But what I like is for me to write the best I can and then it to help me improve it. And I think that kind of iterative process can elevate my writing to a better level. And over time, if I do it enough, I think I'll get better at writing because I'm tired of you having to rewrite everything that I do. It takes you a longer time to rewrite it because you take it and make it, sometimes you simplify it, sometimes you make it more expressive. I like writing with you, but I'd like to hand you something that's a little bit easy. Okay, we argue a lot.
We argue a lot when we write.
But I would still like to hand you something a
which
little
is interesting
closer.
because we're going to be starting on our next book fairly soon. We've got the outline for our next book.
There's a month or two worth of arguing to do.
That's going to be a lot of arguing. So,
well, if you listen,
looking forward to that.
If you just did everything the way I told you to,
exactly,
which is never
our
going to
life
happen,
would be so much easier.
I've told you that for years.
Just listen to Jim.
You do listen, and you dutifully listen, and then ignore what you feel like.
So let's wrap this up. We only have a few minutes left. What did we get out of the TCEA conference?
People are excited about AI, and there's a lot of it, but there's a lot more they need to learn, is what I got out of it.
I got that, and I got that people are excited about AI, and therefore the people who are talking about AI are assuming that those that are excited know a lot more.
The lady on the train, it really hit you.
It really hit me when she said, "I don't even know what it is."
How can I?
3 minutes in, I realized I didn't even know the questions to ask.
Yeah, kind of. Everybody that hears that has a flashback to a college class where the professor says, "Any questions?" and you're like, "I don't know what you just said." What you just said.
Don't know what you just said.
I agree.
So now I'm going to put in a little plug for us at AI Education Professionals. We have a level 1, level 2, and level 3 AI class.
Yeah, we haven't. We need to start getting. That's the other thing I learned is teachers like stickers and swag.
We need swag.
These certifications we're talking about, we need to put something with them. They need to be a little hologram. Amy's group, Fried Tech, they did such a great job of engaging their audience with
stickers,
with rewards,
cup charms, and teachers love swag.
I guess everyone does, not just teachers.
We take it back to our classrooms and we hand it out as prizes to our kids, and we put the sticker on our filing cabinets.
They had a little black light thing. You scratch off a little black light number.
Yeah, they had a little black light. They all won.
I never really was into that.
Hey, I have a sticker,
but I'm not. You do. You had to have a sticker, and you even were talking about where you're going to put it on the computer.
Yes, swag is important.
Apparently.
K-12 teachers are their own little group of people.
Yep.
We have to remember that K-12 teachers, they were in school. They loved school, typically.
Yep.
They went to college so that they could continue to be in school.
They love teaching. And they love interacting with the kids.
Excited.
And that's what makes them special, is because they love getting... When I walk around and see all those teachers, they're putting a lot of time into this. They don't have to be there. They're getting paid.
They're enjoying themselves.
They didn't get paid on the weekend, really, but they get paid for professional development, all that stuff. I get that, but they put a lot of time. And you hear them talking, and they're in little groups, and they're very animated. So all right,
we only have 2 minutes. Favorite thing in the exhibit hall? What was your favorite thing in the exhibit hall?
There was a lot of good stuff in the exhibit hall.
Conversation that you had with the guy about the AI tutor that they're doing. I think that was your favorite conversation. All right.
It was the robot arm.
I love
the robot arm.
My favorite thing.
What?
The cricket. The cricket.
Of course you did. I got to sit in a chair in the corner of the cricket booth. No, the robot arm was so cool looking. I wanted one. It was $7,000.
Yeah, well.
But the cricket, I didn't think we were ever going to get out of that booth.
Anyway, thank you for joining us for AI in Action. My name is Mari. This is my husband, Jim, and we will be back for a Sunday couch conversation next week. Hope that you guys have a marvelous week, and thank you so much for listening.